Hi, I'm Desiree Aragon Nielsen.
Hi, I'm Andrea Dawn.
Hi, I'm Laura Carone.
And we are continuing a conversation.
Ooh, yes, we are.
About spirituality.
Yes.
We thought we were going to be talking about the new earth today.
Yes.
And something entirely related but different emerged.
The same but different.
The same but different.
Oh, man.
Do you want to talk about it?
I can only go as far back as what we just read.
Yes. Well, and I don't think we need to read it to them or even explain it to them.
No.
We just need to encourage you guys to read something.
I do want to start with, there was a couple things that I saw last night. One, in this magical mystery house where we are recording from, I had been feeling that there was an owl going to be coming, that for whatever reason we hadn't seen it, hadn't heard one, and telling Jill, like, there's an owl coming, telling Desiree, there's an owl going to be coming. Last night, I completely didn't see it fly by, doing its shriek, and it turned around and came and shrieked again. And I was so excited. I'm like, oh, you're here. The owl's here. And so having that, just coming through is amazing. And then as I'm standing just looking out in the darkness with the streets, the garage light was on, and I'm on the second story, and I keep seeing these shadows move below me, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And I just keep watching, and I realize, because the garage light is on, that there are these spiders in the window of the garage, and they're making webs. And so it's kind of darting and moving really quick, and then it would stop. And so finally I really looked, and I'm like, it's a spider. But the shadow was probably like 2 feet by 2 feet. And I know if I walked in the garage, it would have been a little itty bitty spider. Where's my... this big. Do my right hand. And so I was just telling the story to everybody here that was part of my experience last night, was remembering, the significance of spiders and owls. And I don't have owls as my spirit animal, never have. And the one couple experiences that I have had with owls have been in my visions, and amazing, amazing animals that are very ancient and bring wisdom and strength. And that the number one spiritual thing about spiders is they carry power. And so that kind of led in our conversation. Jill just popped in and said, oh, it reminds me of the allegory of the cave. We were like, Plato, okay. So we just looked up this allegory of the cave, and we started reading. Somewhere just very recently, I just read that, and I had I didn't even know it was from Plato, but I was reading it, and I thought, this is very interesting. Here we are now, fast forwarding to today, and she brings this up.
And a couple days ago, what do you want?
I saw a segment on Facebook that I had enjoyed and reposted it because it spoke to me.
It was like a video playing summary of what the allegory of the cave. What do you think spoke to you when you watched this short video, kind of reading the allegory of the cave and what it was and what its meaning was? What specifically spoke to you?
How our perceptions are so can be messed with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not really
that's pretty
scientific term, but yeah,
messes with us.
Fucks with our psyche.
Limits us.
Yes.
Yeah,
puts constraints and restrictions.
Yes.
On us.
Yep.
Right.
It feeds our fears. Can feed our fears.
Yeah. So we definitely, if you know of the allegory of the cave, then you're probably right aligned with this conversation. But if you haven't, like us, been exposed to it or been exposed to it in the way that we all were together in this moment, we really encourage you to go back and read it.
Mm-hmm.
But so then we go to sit down to record, and Andrea decides that she's going to challenge me a little bit.
Not you, Plato, actually. It was really Plato.
But you were getting a little feisty. And so I asked her, why do you have all this spice, but you're not on video? So let's talk a little bit about what were you challenging with Plato, and I guess I was defending the terminology that Plato was using at that time, and you were like, but what if? So let's start with some of the terminology Plato had used was that the path to enlightenment can have an element of suffering or discomfort to it. I'm not using the exact words. I want you to go read it. And you said...
Well, what I read was that the way that he was saying the path to enlightenment is painful and arduous. That's is.
So she hears is, I heard could be. Just want that on the record too.
And I understand. My thing was, what if we changed it? What if we had said it's fun and easy? And so just reading what Plato wrote, it just made me go, no, why? You're telling us this is how it is. And we are believing Plato's belief that it's painful and it's arduous. And again, she brings up my past.
So in her book, My Invincible Truth, which we spent a lot of time together, one might describe that path as chaotic and difficult. And certainly while she was living it, it didn't feel easy necessarily. So now she has the benefit of hindsight to look back and say, I'm glad I had those experiences.
Yes. Interesting that you just used that word, because I just had this, I had anger, and yet it was very, it was in a sense kind of easy because I was so numb. Mm-hmm. So I had so disassociated myself from everything that it actually was a flow between mom, dad's, between whatever I was going, and I was constantly back and forth.
So are you saying that we should numb out in order for this path to be easy and to disassociate?
Well, because
the kinds of things we say on this.
For me, my experience was to disassociate from what we would have said was painful, or even, I'm going to get a little graphic here, so if kids are listening, probably not a good idea.
I'm thinking kids are not listening.
I don't think they are either, but I just wanted to warn. If you're in the car, maybe you're driving your kids to school or something. When I was, one of the acts of the sexual abuse was, I remember being on my knees on where I was kind of on the ground, but my hands were on the back of the bed. And his arms were coming around me. And I can clearly remember, first that's where my hatred for tattoos came, because he had the tattoos. And I just remember, I don't remember the pain of the actual act. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell you what that felt like. Mm-hmm. That was so disassociated to me. And yet what I got from seeing his tattoos and focusing on just hating the tattoos, mm-hmm. not the man, mm-hmm. just something that was going to remind me. So aside from what was happening behind me and, watching her, seeing her, it was just going into anger.
When you say watching her, seeing her, you mean you?
No, it was a couple. So it was a husband and wife.
Okay.
And I remember looking up at her, and I think my thought was, I can't believe, you're letting this. Yeah, you're just standing there allowing this. And I think at one point she actually grabbed my arm to prevent me from moving. And so, again, just focusing on this anger, the anger allowed me to completely be numb. I honestly cannot tell you. I do know what happened, right? Having that knowing, but I cannot tell you, and again, I cannot tell you the different penetrations happening, what that felt like.
But what about that is fun and easy? Do you see you're talking, she's got me like,
because that was easy.
Plato saying this conversation between Socrates and Glaucon on this whole concept of being in prison, right? And when we recognize that we can get out of that prison and bring ourselves to the light, we feel so much joy, so much blessings. Okay. So we feel so good, yes. Right? You can tell me that you were protected and to not feel it. And I can relate with that because I have memories of my own abuse as a child. And I don't feel that. I don't feel the pain necessarily in my body. I feel that I disassociated and spent a long period of my life disassociated, right? So I get that. I get what you're saying. But what about that was fun and easy?
So as you were talking, what was coming to me is that this path of enlightenment, and especially using that word of enlightenment, that these experiences that we go through are for our soul's growth. So if we are saying, I want to have this experience, in a sense, why? Why? Why would we want to have the experience of sexual abuse? Or physical abuse, mental? Why do we have the experience of, a horrific death, right? Being murdered, being raped, right? I've had that experience twice. So why am I choosing in this lifetime to have these experiences? I'm not, again, the fun and the easy. I'm sitting in this chair going, I would go do all of that again to get me to where I am today. So
we're so different.
Right?
I really do. I get it because we've had these conversations a lot. So you would understand that I understand some elements of what you're saying,
yes.
Right? But I have come to learn with you and around the spiritual leaders such as you, Laura, that we have the opportunity to interact with, is that if we so choose, your words,
yes,
divine guidance words,
absolutely.
If we so choose, we may have written on our soul contract that an abuse could be a thing that could happen to us. But we can by design, we can make it so that we can get that same soul growth lesson without actually having that abuse.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you say you wouldn't change a thing. Me, on the other hand, now that I know that I don't have to trauma, I'm like, definitely not traumaing. I'm focused on show me what I need to know, and let it be joyful and let it be easy. And I don't need the trauma.
I know that my experiences was so that as I heard, which I already knew this, so the confirmation from this random person that my friend Robin and I met in Sedona, and right off the bat, she just turned to me and she said, "You're relatable." And I knew instantly what that meant. So my stories are relatable. So did I go through them for everybody else? Absolutely. Because we're all one.
So you went through them as much for yourself as for others. And you're just acknowledging that you just have this knowing that you don't, going back to the loop, have to relive the loop of this having occurred to you as having any other meaning than helping you to be A, relatable.
Right.
And B, a more loving, connected soul that has no judgment for any of humanity. So one of the things that you remember thinking with the woman is, why was she allowing this to happen? But you don't look back and say that she was bad or wrong for it. No. You simply know it was a part of your experience. It's letting go of the judgment and letting go of the loop, things that we talked about in a previous recording. And when you let go of the judgment and you let go of the loop, therefore you're not suffering and you're not in the pain, and it becomes easier not just to have had the experience, but then to live on the other side of it. Yes. And so many people got stuck in the experience. That's really what you were bothered by.
Yes.
You felt like in some way, if you read that, you might interpret that when it says it's hard, when he said it was hard, that it meant that people think they have to be stuck in the hard.
Yes.
Which I didn't get from his writing.
Of course not. And the whole thing of him saying, the allegory of going back down into the cave to help others, to show, to help them. So,
which is where Laura comes into play, because we believe that's her path.
Yes.
Although she has no purpose and no contribution and no thing you have to do. We actually, the whole reason we ended up wanting to record with you, 3 recordings in, and we're into it.
She's like, I didn't know I'd be here all day.
When are they going to
We don't serve lunch either.
I know.
We don't eat.
No, I did. I grabbed something.
Oh, yeah. This one gets hangry.
Yeah, I am prone to being hangry. Yeah, Jill's like, you need food. So the funny thing is that Laura originally spoke about her near-death experience, and she had spoken in it in one meetup, and then she spoke to Andrea about it in a separate one, and so then there was a meetup where the two of us were together with Laura, so all three of us were together, and I see Andrea asking Laura about the near-death experience for the purpose of the group, but I totally see that Andrea knows something about Laura and Laura's role with the New Earth. And I tell Andrea, I know you know that. And Andrea looks like, what? What is that? Right? And then I talk to Laura, and Laura says, I know, I feel like I have a role with the New Earth, and I feel like you're supposed to help me uncover that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the New Earth, and we're already 15 minutes in, so this may be a long video. So if you're getting ready in the morning, pause here and start again tomorrow, and you can hear the rest of it. Or if you're ready for it, I think let's go all in, okay? Because you said to me, I don't know much about the New Earth, right? But yet when we talk to you about that, there's a role in the New Earth, and somehow, yet we don't have roles and we don't have identity, but there's some sort of character truth for you in the New World. You feel like that's true, even though you don't know there's a New Earth.
I feel like what I want to do is to bring people where I was when I died. That place of acceptance and love and no fear, no judgment, all of that. And
so that word want is a heavy word.
Yes.
If you were to not want that, but maybe just describe visually what that looks like, what would you say?
No, boy, that's a tough question.
You're an artist. You can do it.
Well, I picture myself communicating, bringing somebody into that place.
Yes.
And I don't know if it means me touching them and bringing them in, or something to do with my art, or both. Or I haven't figured that out yet.
So assume that it has nothing to do with anything you do in an earthly way, and visually tell me, what do you see? It's happening.
Sharing a space.
Oh.
Sharing a space in my heart.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Wow. And I feel like I don't know what word I'm supposed to use now.
You don't need or want. You feel like, it feels like
I need to get back there myself.
So if you don't need to get back there, maybe you're looking forward to experiencing that feeling again.
And
how could you show anybody else what that's like?
Right.
The allegory of the cave.
Yes.
How can we show anybody else or share the knowledge of getting out of the cave if we're in the cave? So somehow you've somehow made some baby steps toward getting out of the cave, but you feel that you're still in the cave.
After I had my near-death experience, I was still there for quite a while.
You were definitively out of the cave?
But I was, yes. But I was still in that space of love.
Out of the cave,
yes.
Right, which is enlightenment.
Right, I was there for days and days, and I mean, the doctors would come in, and I could tell they could even feel it.
Yes.
They came and they sat by me, and I had this one doctor, he just held my hand and he said, whatever you want me to do, just let me know and I'll do it. And so he was kind of, I think he'd seen my scans and everything. He was kind of in awe of what he saw.
Yes.
At some point, I went back to my old ways.
Yes. Yes.
And so I want to capture that. I want to.
Aren't you doing exactly what the allegory of the cave suggests? Is that you found your way out, and it might have been by happenstance, in the sense that you allowed for this opportunity in your life to see something else, so you know there was something else. Prior to that moment, you didn't know love in that expansive way.
Mm-hmm.
You thought you knew love.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't know love in the way of the new earth.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, you felt love in the way of the new earth. And then you did exactly what Plato suggested, which is once you had that knowing, you went back in, and you're now looking at sharing this knowledge with others. And what you've discovered is that you cannot actually share that space or share that knowledge if you yourself don't resonate or vibe with that. Right? And we feel very much the same about the Magical Mystery House. Part of the reason we're here is in order to live in that vibration 100% of the time. And you've even seen us talking about there are moments where we have all of our own humanness, and we do everything possible to step outside of the limitations of the humanness and still be human. We still want to be human. We're still having a human experience because that's what we wanted to, and at a higher, or I like to say different frequency, because higher and lower sometimes has kind of a judgment, and I like the idea of just at a vibrational frequency that matches the love and enlightenment, the bliss state. Yes. It is very difficult to stay in bliss state when we are around suffering and pain and hurt and misery. That includes even the aesthetic. One of the things about the Magical Mystery House, and I don't know if you feel this way, but it's beautiful here. We are looking at windows that are showing us trees in every direction. Right?
Yeah.
And we come down into the neighborhood and we travel under trees to go all the way to the back of the neighborhood. If we want to take a walk, we'll walk through trees, through beautiful homes, and through this relaxing space in which people just seem to be at ease here. These are all part of us raising our vibration in order to be able to hold the space for others. What did you, and I understand you may not know, what do you think you know about Laura that I was sensing or picking up on? What is it that you're seeing or feeling?
The light worker of showing the people in the cave this experience. When you have what you had, the one-on-one, right? You were in it, and you just told us, right? You were a part of that oneness, and then you want to bring them into your heart. That is what it's about. And so opening up even more and more to what that was for you. And it's not that it's a feeling, it's a being. It's the being in that. And so the practice that we've even talked about in our meetups, where having to almost be conscious at first of the being, and then the more we practice, right? Fake it till you make it.
Not doing.
No.
Not being purposeful.
No.
Not sharing our passion with the world, but simply being.
Yes.
Like you've done today here at the Magical Mystery House.
It's amazing that, and as you guys were talking, because we have been using this word, Buddha has shown up. And
I don't know that we've had Buddha before.
I don't know if I don't feel like I've ever had Buddha either. I do know that this, oh, that's right. I'm not sure. Something's buzzing as Buddha's here, right?
Feel the vibration.
Feel the vibration. Good vibes. Good vibration. He was showing me that even in the words that you were using, wanting and trying, and that he showed me being under that tree, that he was being in that moment, that he received what was for him enlightenment. And it's just as much as our near-death experiences are all different, so is our enlightenment. And so as people want to read the books, read the Allegory of the Cave, read Buddha's books, read the Bible, whatever it is, we're all searching for that light, that enlightenment. And so it's not one way. It's all we can do is be the light, so that we have the light coming from us, that we show the way. So all my past experiences, being the light, showing these are my experiences. I'm light. I'm light through all of that.
Yeah, that's the thing about Andrea is she's just like one of those feel-good people. So, she says good morning every morning, good night at night, and gives you a big hug when she greets you. And I'm like, that stuff is hard for me. But she just brings all this love everywhere she goes, and all this laughter and all this joy. And she did that all through her chaotic childhood. Mm-hmm. She was able to just be really fun and light. And so when she's challenging back of that, does it have to be fun and easy? She's saying, well, I was always able to bring the light. It's just a part of who she is, right? And some of us do that, but it's fake. In Andrea's case, when she's bringing that light, it's just her being true to her character. And when she talks about how it's all different, how we all bring that differently, I'm not going to bring it the way Andrea does, right? And you've met Jill. I'm not going to bring it the way Jill does, right? And I'm not going to bring it the way Laura does, right? Because each of us is our own being. And so Buddha really wants us to understand that Buddha's path to enlightenment came through the Bodhi tree. Is that what it's called?
He sat under the Bodhi tree.
He sat under the Bodhi tree, of which Jill, I just want you to know, wore the necklace that you brought for me with the seed from the tree just yesterday, right, Jilly? You wore that just yesterday. And Jilly, your tree, that's the tree. I'm wondering if we can show that tree, the Bodhi tree, the tree of enlightenment, before we conclude.
Or the banyan tree.
And
yes,
so
the banyan tree.
The banyan tree. And banyan.
I'm sure it was,
So Jill's going to go get that just so that we can show you that piece of artwork. But when you said, I think, you were open to having these conversations, not just having them, but to video them. Because let's go all in.
That's right.
But you were open to them because you felt like we might have something for you or with you, knowing that you already know that we don't have anything that you don't already have. So it's not us thinking that we know for you. I think what we understood was we could foster the dialogue for you to find the wisdom and the truth. And so I would love to hear what's coming up for you as we talk about all of these things. And think on that for just a moment. We'll show the tree, and you think on that, and then we'll...
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful.
The tree. It's such a beautiful picture.
I know.
Of course it does.
So when you were in India is when you got the seed from the tree that we each wear. You wear it as a bracelet, I wear it as a necklace, and that's what Jill was wearing yesterday. And then here, this hangs in our home.
Yes. And
here's Buddha joining us for this conversation of enlightenment and sharing with us about being in a state of being, and that's all that was necessary was to be. So on that, what's coming up for you?
Well, it was just yesterday in my backyard. I have this very large oak tree, and it was just yesterday I was looking at it, and I said, "Oh, that's kind of a healing place for me." And it came to me yesterday. I have this. I buried a copper all around it, kind of in a figure 8, kind of, and that there's a place right there. Yesterday, I thought I need to sit there. I just need to sit on this end, and that'll be very helpful for me. That's what came up yesterday, and so it's coming up again.
And as you envision yourself sitting there and you compare that to all the things that you need and want and feel like you have to find or have to do, what does the feeling of sitting on the tree feel like in comparison to the needs and wants and have-tos?
Well, it's just there, and it's been there the whole time.
You're being.
And what I'm fascinated by is, in some ways, you have a caregiver role at this stage of your life that, that's a whole nother kind of conversation we were having. And you can be in the home caregiving and have the opportunity to be under the tree.
Yeah.
That you don't have to take an extreme decision or actions around your caregiving in order to have the opportunity to be.
Right.
It's fascinating how it's all available to us.
It is.
Why do you think that we see that? And we don't always jump into those moments of knowing. I know you're not alone. I'm asking it because I know I do it. She's done it. You know, what is it?
Sometimes you're programmed that it's supposed to be difficult. Supposed to be, so this is there. It's been there the whole time. And I'm looking for this big, huge thing to happen. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing.
Yeah, you're looking for some sort of, enlightenment event, right?
Struck by lightning. You can walk outside and be struck by lightning, and then...
Meanwhile, it's not enough for her to have a near-death
Right?
experience.
I don't know. That was in the past. Okay, now what's next?
What's happening today? It is subtle, though. It is subtle. We're in this house learning to speak telepathically. Yes. And what did the other day I got mad at something she said because I just didn't like that it felt true. And she says, "Did you just say F you?" And right? And I did not say it out loud, but I did say it. I heard it. And she heard it.
She did. She just said F you.
Not the most enlightened part of my being. But it was the enlightenment for us is that she telepathically knew where I was. And what I was saying was, I know this is true. In this moment, I'm not quite ready to just be in that truth, to be fully in that truth.
And yet you laughed.
I did.
Because
it was funny.
It was funny.
Even though it wasn't funny.
We got called out and it wasn't. It was.
Because it's funny, but it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about, our futures and when there might be a time where we're not able to have these conversations in this way. And sometimes I don't like hearing that. I want to think that this is going to be this way forever. And my human ego attached self is like, don't you go talking about, the untethered soul. But the untethered soul says, when we are saying no matter what, it means that the possibilities are infinite. And so when you're not taking the extreme experience, but the subtlety of sitting under the tree, that is when truth really emerges. And that is when we are forced into responding. And I don't mean forced in a way of somebody holding us down. I mean forced into our own knowing. So I guess I mean that the force of nature kind of thing, where we can no longer ignore ourselves. It's under the tree where we find our knowing in the quiet, in the peace.
Yeah.
And we experience the love and the enlightenment the way that we were able to in the near-death experiences.
And finding enlightenment in the laughter, finding enlightenment, in our day-to-day routines.
Making other people feel good, giving them big hugs if it feels right to do. Don't give them a hug if it doesn't feel good. You don't need to touch people you don't want to touch. But just that, just those little moments of kindness and affection and joy, and allow for random events. The other day, I had to get my bangs cut. I had to have them cut because I had gotten a stylist that had kind of went for a longer bang, and I was okay at first, and then as my bangs started to grow out, I'm like, I need bangs. So we ask, I'm like, oh, should I stop somewhere and get my hair cut? And Jilly says, well, I can cut your hair, just let's get some styling scissors, right? So we're driving along the road, and she looks up beauty salon, she's like, turn left here. We go into the salon, and this woman there, she's like, hey, what's your mother's name? You look just like my friend's daughter. My friend passed away. She says, you remind me of her daughter. And she just kind of was going on and on for a few minutes. And that I thought I was there because I wanted my bangs cut or needed these shears. But you could tell that I was simply there to be a gentle reminder that this woman who had been a good friend to her really loved her and wanted her to feel that love. And I didn't have to articulate that to her. I didn't have to explain what I was seeing or knowing. I didn't have to channel the friend. I simply just held the space for her to look at me and feel like she recognized something in me that reminded her of a love that she felt from a dear one.
That's part of the being.
That was being. You see, we were in a random road, random place, random salon, And we got the shearing scissors, which was bonus, but half the time we end up in random places and don't get what we thought we came for. That happens a lot too. Why did I stop at 6 places and not get those scissors?
Right.
We've had those
Yep.
trips a lot.
Yes.
Because it's not about the scissors.
Right.
Yes.
It's about being.
It's about the wholeness of the oneness, right? And extending our expansiveness and bringing them back into our heart.
The new earth is living in a state of that expansive
Yes.
oneness all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The only way we can prepare for the new earth is to live today
Yes.
as if we are
Yes. As
fully
it is.
in that.
Mm-hmm. Being there, here. As we're there already.
Love it.
My brain goes,
We're speaking in riddles.
explains why Jesus spoke in parables.
Right. Right.
Because it's...
We're there while we're here.
Yes.
The more that we can live in this,
Yes.
the easier this transition
Yes.
between new earth and
Yes.
what is whatever we call earth now is for all.
Yeah.
Bliss for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
That's good.
Is that a good way to end?
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts for us, Laura? What did you think about visiting the Magical Mystery House?
Oh, this has been a blessing to meet people, like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
It's very helpful for me. Yeah. When after my experience, people wanted to hear my story, but then they just didn't want to hear it anymore.
Yeah.
So and that's helpful for me to talk about it. And
Yeah.
so
Well, it's interesting. It's like, oh my gosh, wait. We have the immortality thought, but then we have the mortal thought. But really, we're immortal. But it's our false beliefs of really, right? You know, people take drugs. They always say, oh, you know, I had cocaine because that makes me feel like I can do anything. Well, you really can do anything. You don't need the cocaine to tell you that you can do anything. You don't need liquid courage, right? The alcohol is called liquid courage. We don't need those things. We just live in lies. We live our lives in lies, and yet if we step back and go, I can do it. It's infinite possibilities. All of that, right? And so wherever we are, whatever we are doing and being, you know, it's showing that this is. The immortality is here. We're not, what's mortal is certain energetic things that we don't leave, but we do. I know we were going to end there.
I know. You're just taking me to a whole nother place, though, that I can't resist, which is, I can't hold it back, is that we, you know, when you said people didn't want to hear it anymore, and you instantly went to mortality, it's like they didn't want to hear about their mortality or their immortality.
Right.
What you were saying was they wanted to stay numb.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That we're going out of our way to watch television, to
Yes.
to be in a state of inaction, to force ourselves to do jobs that we don't like.
Yes.
If we claimed ourselves to be an artist, but we no longer feel compelled to art, we force ourselves to try to do the art because that's what we claimed ourselves to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it completely numbed out. So even if somebody's having a relatable experience to what we're doing, we're not enjoying it. We're numb to all.
Mm-hmm.
And we are a society, especially Western culture here in
Yeah.
the United States, that's constantly looking for, like you said, either the liquid courage or the, you know, whatever, the high or the zombie effect,
Yes.
right? And when we have a blissful experience, people don't want to hear it. That's just strange. It doesn't make sense. But this comes back to the celebratory dialogue. Tracy, part of the reason Tracy and I are so bonded is because every time something exciting happens, simple stuff like I went to get an oil change and they gave to me for free because I was the 50th customer kind of thing, we celebrate that, right? Or I had a knowing, or let me tell you what happened with the scissors. We talk about all of that all the time because we're expanding it. And the more we started celebrating, we do not commiserate. That doesn't mean that we don't talk realistically about a difficult day, but we don't commiserate.
Mm-hmm.
People would have loved to hear your story about the pain and suffering over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't want to hear the bliss of it.
Right.
They didn't want to hear those moments that when you were in this expanded consciousness, this oneness of the divine. And you felt like because they didn't want to hear it, that you would shut your mouth, the locked jaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you felt as if because they're saying to you they don't want to hear it, that it's too much for you to say it. And I believe part of us being here is to say whatever it is you have to say, it's not too much.
No.
We don't all have to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't all have to buy into it,
Nope.
but you get to keep speaking it.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody gets up and leaves in that moment, that's okay too.
Yep.
They can get up and leave. That's like, you know, you understand, but we don't stop saying it.
Right.
Just because they seem like they don't want to hear it. But we also aren't saying it because we feel like we need to lecture it. We're just speaking it until our heart feels like it knows it again.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In whatever way we need to. You've talked about writing. I feel that very strong in you. Andrea will say, chances are you're not even in my presence if you don't have something in writing going, because I do so much with writers, right? And so I do feel your writing. And not unlike Jill, I feel like your writing includes illustrations, right? That your writing is... this is my experience and this is what it looks like. This is my experience and this is what it looks like. So ultimately your book feels like a compilation of almost like meditations to get to oneness, where there are statements of when you are feeling love this way, and then here's the drawing. When you are feeling expansion, and then here's the drawing. That is what I'm feeling with you under the tree. Now, whether that actually produces a tangible book, I want you to let go of. That is not important.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's the experience of being with these feelings. Yes? Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. She's like, yeah, let's write it.
Let's do it.
Right? But it's really
Yeah.
important that she doesn't get caught up in having a task to do.
No.
Because it won't flow.
Oh,
Do you
it'll
see?
be easy.
Yeah. And it's only when you're honoring your state of being.
Yes.
Yeah. But if we try to produce it, it doesn't get produced. It's do or do not. There is no try. You said
That's right.
Yoda was in the
yeah.
house. Yoda is do or do not. There is no try. We don't have to need for anything. We don't have to want for anything. We are able to be in a state of bliss all of the time, even if something on the outer surface looks a little challenging, like the example that you gave in the last recording where your sister had a traumatic event and you're supporting somebody in the hospital. You can be like Patch Adams. You can bring the joy into it and remind them of the laughter and the ease, and that they may get through it or they may not, but either way, you're going to be okay.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because whether you're mortal or immortal, you're
okay.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
The untethered soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo! All right. Wow. We knocked it out.
Yes.
We hope you've enjoyed this and the other recordings with Laura. Laura, we
Thank
hope you'll
you.
come back and
Thank
talk
you.
with us after you have
Yes.
some time with the tree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that'll be fun to hear about.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for being here and listening and watching. And thank you to Jill's artwork showing the banyan tree as the roots are going up. Love that. Love that. And Laura, thank you for being here and sharing your
thank you.
experiences with us. So,
Bye, everybody.
bye.